AI is not going to coming to take your job. A creative person with AI is coming to take your job. And I think you need to really get involved in how to use AI properly, meaning giving it the right prompts to generate ideas that you can then work off of. Don't try to be like Mr. Beast. Don't try to be generic.
Welcome to the Business Narrative. It's me, Wajiha Nadeem. Today our guest is Sydney. So Sydney, how are you?
I am very well. Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be fun.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us today. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us about your journey?
Sure. So my name is Sydney Wheatley. I'm based in the Kingdom of Bahrain, which is a small country in the Arabian Gulf. I'm actually from Holland, which is another very small country in Europe. I basically came here when I was 3 years old and grew up here. Then after I finished high school, I went back to Europe and actually started my career immediately. I've had all kind of jobs that you can think of, back office, front office, sales and marketing, operations, you name it, I've basically done it. And I came back to the region in around 2009, which is when I really started to have a much better understanding of entrepreneurship, building businesses, creating value where there currently is none. So that's sort of been my journey.
As you are experienced in animation and VFX industry, so can you tell me if someone wants to start a business in this niche, what are the footsteps he has to follow?
Sure. So actually, so that company, Michelle Movies, is actually one of our companies that we have. We actually have several that we operate. I think there's no purely good footprint for starting a business because it depends on what's your area, what's your specialty, what's your own knowledge base, what's your financial capability. You know, there's 100,000 things that you need when you want to start a business. But I think the most important thing, or the most important element of your blueprint, is your own determination. Now, the reason I say this is because companies die by 1,000 cuts. You know, there's a reason why 90% of startups fail. And that's because there's a myriad of things that can happen. You could not find the right product market fit. You could run out of cash. Customers might not just be interested. You might not be reaching the right customer. Maybe you have the right product in the right market, but your competitors outspending you on marketing and on those kind of things. So I think to get through all those thousands of cuts, it's pure determination. It's waking up every morning, even though you had the worst day of your life yesterday, and going, I'm going to make this work, I'm going to make this happen, and I'm going to figure it out. And I think that is the key ingredient to entrepreneurship, because it's just hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. It can be lonely as well. You know, often you're a company of one pretending to be a company of 100, and you have no one to talk to about how to solve specific problems. Or even if you have a team under you, you always want to be the brave, or you know, the leader who knows everything. So it can be quite lonely. So I really think grit and determination are the key ingredient to any successful entrepreneur.
When someone wants to start a business, their main concern is how to grab a client without a portfolio. So, could you please tell us how to pitch a client?
So for example, if you're doing B2B, so business, let's say business to business, for those not in the know. So when you're selling from your business directly to another business, you need to determine, first of all, who's your target market, right? Are you selling to SMEs, small businesses? Are you selling to large enterprises? Are you selling to a specific niche? First, determine what's your market. Once you've determined that, it's really a question of knocking doors, or in today's parlance, picking up the phone and calling people, or cold calling them. Now, conversely, if you're doing, let's say, B2C, so selling directly to an end customer, which is an individual or a family, you still have to determine your target market, of course. But you can't really go knocking on doors because you'll hopefully have thousands, if not millions of customers. So then it becomes a question of, okay, where do my customers live? When I say live, I don't mean geographically. I mean, where do they spend their time? Do they spend their time watching TV? Maybe if they're an older demographic. Do they spend their time on, social media if they're a younger demographic? Even within the younger demographic, are they more on TikTok? Are they more on Instagram? Who is your target audience? Where can I find them? And then try and tailor a message specifically to those. Now, again, you're going to fail 1,000 times because, messaging sounds perfect in your head and it sounds perfect when you make your small ad or your small spot, but it might not resonate with those people receiving the message. So you'll have to make 5 or 6 different messages, try them out on different market demographics and see what resonates, see what pulls people to your product. And I've always found that once you have your first, on the business, or let's say on the consumer side, once you've found your first 100 or 200 customers, it gets a lot easier because then you can sort of, you get your product into the hands of your customer. You start to realize what they appreciate about your product. Then you can start to resonate that message again in your further marketing campaigns. Similarly, when you do B2B, so meaning you have one business customer, and typically if you're going for your first customer in B2B, stick to one customer. The reason I say this is because your product is not perfect. It rarely is, whether it's software or whether it's a physical thing, most likely it's going to be software. It's not a perfect product. So you want to get as much feedback as you can from that first customer about how to improve your product, what they appreciate about it, right? Sometimes the things you think are amazing about your product are not resonating at all with your customer. They're actually very interested in this little feature that you put together in a weekend. So you want to figure out what makes it magical and then start to replicate, because then you can scale that improvement. But if you take too many business customers at once, you have to, first of all, hire a huge team to take care of each of them. They'll all be telling you different things, and you won't be able to hone into what makes your product special.
What skills are most necessary to start a business?
Well, I think it's important to think about scale. It shouldn't be your primary driver. Like if you have an interesting or a good idea, what I see a lot of entrepreneurs do is they spend a lot of time thinking about it and thinking about how to make it perfect and thinking about how to roll it out and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. It's good to think about the future, but at some point you have to actually go and do something, right? So you have to get out of your own head and start to do things. But at some point you should think about scale, because scale is vital. Because if your product is not scalable, it turns into a lifestyle business, right? And a lifestyle business is basically where you earn enough to live a good life, right? It's the kind of businesses maybe our parents had, where they have a shop or 2 shops, and it buys you a new car every 3 or 4 years, and it sends your kids to a good school. But it's not the kind of thing that is possible to be venture backed, right? If you want to build a venture backed business, and if you want to get that hockey stick growth, you need to think about scale, and you need to think about, how am I going to make this a business that can go 100x in 1 year? Now, mostly those are software businesses because it's very hard to scale physical, right? You need a lot of capital to do that. You'll have to engage factories in China and things like that. But if you're on the software side, you need to think, how can I scale this up? How can I replicate this? Or even if you're doing a real world service, for example, like Uber, how can we scale this into going from 100 customers to 10,000 customers, which is 2 orders of magnitude. I mean, that's a lot.
There's a lot of competition in this business world. So, how can business survive in this competition?
And that's where grit and determination become an important factor, and maybe even a little bit of arrogance. And I don't mean arrogance in a bad way, but having that belief that, no, my product will be better. My product will be more attractive. My product will be able to scale. Now, perhaps this is self-delusion, but if you don't believe that about yourself, you will always feel, oh, they're already doing it. Why would I go into it? Oh, they already have this product. Why would I be able to improve it? So I understand there are loads of other startups doing loads of other things, but remember, startups die by 1,000 cuts. So if you are able to survive and get your first 1,000 or 10,000 or God willing million customers, you will have outlived 10,000 other startups, right? So you have to be willing to believe in yourself and believe in your product and your idea.
But don't you think if you have an arrogant attitude, there will be no room for improvement?
Well, that's why I sort of say arrogance facetiously. It's more like self-confidence, right? And there's a fine distinction, you know. Arrogance is believing you can do something when you can't, whereas self-confidence is believing you can do something and you actually have the experience to back it up. Um, I think that you have to have the self-confidence, arrogance, but of course take that feedback, you know. It's believing that you can make a better product by iterating, by taking, you know, design thinking principles into your mind about taking your product and improving it every single time. You know, think about someone like Elon Musk, right? Very divisive character. You might hate him, you might love him, you might find him extremely arrogant, which he probably is, or you might find him self-confident, which he also probably is. But he entered the car business, which, you know, we just mentioned it's really hard to do real world products. You know, if I were to tell you, for example, this water bottle, let's make a water bottle company, that's really hard. Think about what goes into a car. You know, a car is basically a collection of 20 different companies that have to come together to make each individual part. Yet he took them on. Why? With the belief that through going back to design thinking principles, iterating on your product, you can make something better. Now, he had a lot of capital to back him up, of course, and a lot of business experience. But I think that if you can start a successful new car company, you can do anything. You know, there's always room to build something new.
I think that now content creators are just replicating the ideas or copying the other ideas. So, how can new content creators generate new ideas?
Well, you know, that's a really interesting and tricky question. And the reason I say it's tricky, even though I'm let's say in the quote unquote creative industry, is that we're going through a mega upheaval right now. You know, as Donald Trump likes to say, there's two tiny little letters called AI, which are going to have a huge impact on the world. Now, we have yet to see what the real impact is on creativity. And I mean real creativity in terms of movie making or let's say these large scale products. But on the smaller scale, we're already seeing blogs that are just completely written by AI, you know. If you go onto YouTube and you do anything like, if you do a how-to video these days, I would say now 40 to 50% of those are AI generated, meaning AI voice, AI script, and AI um, backgrounds or graphics or whatever. So it's very tricky, but there's a saying in AI, and it's been said to death, honestly. It's been said by 1,000 people, so I don't want to repeat it, but I have to. It's that the losers will be those who don't use AI at all. AI is not going to coming to take your job. A creative person with AI is coming to take your job. And I think you need to really get involved in how to use AI properly, meaning giving it the right prompts to generate ideas that you can then work off of. Now, I would say that in this day and age, the thing that people are really attaching themselves onto, especially if you're a content creator, is authenticity. Be your authentic self. Be a person as you are. Don't try to be like Mr. Beast. Don't try to be generic. Don't try to be like a newscaster on CNN. Have a personality, have a voice, and have something to say. And if you couple that with the power of AI to help you generate ideas and generate original thoughts, I think you can be a pretty unstoppable force. But again, it's hard because all these tools are cheap, and you know, there's nothing cheaper than opening up your laptop and making new content, right? It's not even having a business. It's literally just saying something. Anyone can do it. So there's a lot of competition out there. So be unique. Be your authentic self. You know, don't even strive to just be unique. Be your authentic self. Have an opinion. Don't go with everyone else.
As we all know, like to use AI, we have to write a perfect prompt. So could you please tell us how to write a best prompt for content creation?
I'm not really the best person because I personally don't use AI much yet. Our teams do, but I'm not really into it yet. I'm trying as much as possible to continue to use um, my own brain to do things. But what I would suggest is a lot of experimentation. You know, with all these things, you have to be willing to experiment. The thing that people what always happens to anyone that's doing something new is they get really easily intimidated by technology, right? Because it's out of my comfort zone. What I would suggest is play with it as much as you can. Don't be afraid to go onto Coursera and do a course in AI or prompt engineering. Um, and I would even say, you know, you asked me a question, what's the perfect prompt? That's honestly changing on a day-to-day basis. You know, uh, I saw a video yesterday, and I honestly couldn't believe my eyes because I've been following, given the industry I'm in, how capable AI is. And 6 months ago, I was like, "Ah, this is terrible. It's not going to do anything." I saw a video yesterday that was done in a day that would have taken me, with a team of 10, probably 2 weeks to complete, 5 years ago. So it's moving at a very fast pace. So even that word perfect prompt is changing on a day-to-day basis. So don't be too obsessed with what's the perfect prompt now. Be obsessed with how can I evolve myself as the technology
Okay, I
evolves.
also want to know your personal side as well. So let's play a quick rapid fire round. You have to answer abruptly. So, are you a coffee guy or a tea person?
Coffee.
Favorite app on your phone?
Favorite app on my phone? I don't really have one. Well, okay, actually I do. Podcast app. That's probably the one I use the most.
First thing you do when you wake up. The best word that describes your entrepreneurial journey.
Um, that describes my entrepreneurial journey. I would say not normal.
What's the reason?
Because I'm not really an entrepreneurial person. I'm
Okay.
I'm someone I'm someone who's quite shy. I'm not someone who likes to be at the front of things. I don't generally think my ideas are the best. So I would say I'm not your typical entrepreneur.
So, if you have to start your business all over again, so what is the thing that you will not repeat in your new journey?
Um, you know, I'm a big believer in destiny, so I wouldn't change a thing because you never know. You change one thing and you might end up in a completely different place. And I'm perfectly happy where I am. So, and my message to anyone listening would be make mistakes. It's fine. Don't have regrets about mistakes because those mistakes are the best education you'll ever have.
By the way, what's the best advice for someone who wants to start their business?
That's what I tell every entrepreneur I ever go to or I ever see. Just start. Just get. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about will it work, won't it work. Don't worry about where will I be in 5 years. Don't worry about where will I have. Just start. If you believe that you have found something interesting, great, there's no better time to start than yesterday. The second best time to start is now. Just get started. Start small. You don't have to be the biggest in the world. Start small. Start with one customer, but start. The second thing I would say is don't be an island. Okay? Entrepreneurs work best when they have someone to talk to and bounce ideas off of. Yeah? Someone to learn from. Find a mentor, find a partner, find someone who will fill those gaps that you have. For example, I'm not a great salesperson, so I need a good salesperson with me always to figure out how to get customers. Right? I'm much better at operations. So So find someone that's really, really good to talk to, hopefully someone smarter than you, and someone that fills your gaps.
It's better to start your business all alone or with a team.
A team might be too big, but have at least one person with you, either as a founding partner or as a mentor to mentor you through the process. But try and find someone, because the thing is, when ideas live in your head, they don't develop, they don't evolve, right? There's nothing I love more than just sitting quietly with a pen and paper and writing down my ideas, and just the act of getting them out of my head and onto a piece of paper, they already start to evolve. When you start to discuss them with someone else, they take their experience and tell you, that's a great idea, but you know what you should do? You should do it like this, because my background says that this might be better. And that's how ideas evolve. And they don't evolve in your head. If you have them just in your head, you'll never get started.
By the way, who is that person in your life?
I've had several. I mean, look, one of the people that really taught me, or even like put the idea in my head that entrepreneurship was even possible. Right? I never even thought it was possible. For me, growing up, I always thought, companies are these big things that just happen. I never thought about the entrepreneurial journey. And then I worked for a small company. Well, I mean, small for me at the time. There were only 40 people there. With this amazing founder. His name is Laurens Groen. If you go onto my LinkedIn, you'll be able to find him. And he's this really eclectic person that is the opposite of what I imagined a CEO to be, right? When you think of a prototypical CEO, it's, shirt done up, tie, perfect hair, always says the right thing, always knows what to say. Whereas Laurens, he was very eclectic, very out there, almost like a mad scientist kind of person that would just go on these tangents about what was possible. I thought, wow, usually a CEO sets out a strategy and you just follow it like a blind, like a good soldier. But this guy was hashing out ideas on the spot, changing strategy on the spot based on whatever was happening around him. I thought, whoa. And it's from him that I really learned that you can take ideas that seem insane and turn them into an amazing value proposition. And I met him, 2006, I would say. And I saw him a few days ago, and he's still the same person. He's still starting a new company now, in a completely different field, because he has a completely unique idea that no one else is doing, and he wants to develop it. The only difference is now he actually has the money to do it, whereas in those days, it was typical startup.
How can people contact you and find your work?
Is on LinkedIn. That's basically where my career is. I don't have Instagram. I don't have social media. The only thing I have is LinkedIn. Feel free to add me. Always happy to have the conversation.
Thank you so much for today. It's really nice talking to you. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. And would love to do this again.